If marketing attribution feels like a mystery to you, you are not alone. Let's decode the terminology and learn about 2025 attribution trends in this episode of Closing Time. Thanks for tuning in to Closing Time, the show for go-to-market leaders. I'm Alex Nazarevich, VP of Growth Marketing for Insightly and Unbounce. Today, I'm joined by Larry Todd, Head of LeadsRx, a marketing attribution platform. Thanks for joining us, Larry.
Hey, Alex. Great to be here.
So, Larry, when marketers get attribution right, it opens up a whole new world in terms of finding efficiency with spend and understanding where to scale. So why do so many marketers get it wrong?
Yeah, great question. This gets at the crux of most of the conversations that I end up having with clients, which is the challenges that bring them to look at attribution in the first place. There's so much information that is siloed across the ad serving platforms today. And the aggregation and arbitration of that data is giving marketers headaches and nightmares. So unifying that data into a single place where you can take actionable insights is extremely difficult, and it's resource intensive. And most folks don't have the tools in place to do that correctly today. We see marketers getting attribution wrong when they try to take a single touch approach to a way more complex customer journey. Consumers are engaging brands in a ton of different ways today. And a lot of times what you're seeing when you're measuring the effectiveness of marketing campaigns is a single touch model, first touch, last touch, and trying to assign credit to a marketing program that fits that space in the customer journey, when in fact, there was a layered, complex marketing approach that oftentimes drives a long tail customer journey through to a conversion. That can span many different channels. It can span many different devices and browsers, and can be oftentimes over the span of days, weeks, or months. The second challenge is even if you're solving for a part of that data puzzle and being able to unify information, a lot of times we see marketers measuring the wrong outcomes. And what I mean by that is not getting down to the most important business outcomes that a company cares about. Most oftentimes that's revenue. So if we're optimizing to a trial sign up or a demo sign up or a content download, or maybe even one single purchase, a lot of times that's not going to tell you the whole customer story about the marketing programs that are driving the acquisition of your most valued customers and having the greatest impact on your most valuable business outcomes.
That's great. Thanks, Larry. So what are some use cases where attribution really works well?
To dovetail off of the last point is the scenarios that bring the most challenges are oftentimes the scenarios where attribution can bring the most value. That happens when there's a lot of different marketing programs that are driving consumers to take action. There are oftentimes many different conversions that happen in a longer tail customer journey through to an eventual bottom funnel conversion. But look, the use cases for attribution are wide and varied, right? Across B2B, B2C, direct to consumer. There's a huge use case for agencies to deploy attribution across their entire client roster, broadcasters, publisher partners. It all just depends on what lens you are taking with attribution and what your end goal is. Attribution can be effective across almost any of those use cases. But the most value I see is a layered marketing approach that spans multiple channels and is driving a consumer to take some sort of digital action in path to conversion. Now, there can be offline marketing programs as well as online, and offline conversions as well as online. But it's really helpful to have some sort of measurable response online to help anchor that customer journey too. There are some instances that provide more of a challenge where there is not a direct measurable response. And I think, we think about consumer packaged goods. So if you have a product that you are selling strictly through big box retailers and measuring the sales of that particular product and trying to tie that back to marketing campaigns is extremely difficult. There are things like foot traffic you can measure. But again, if I'm going into a Target or Walmart or another big box store, right, I could be going in to buy a whole bunch of different things. I may end up walking out with your product, but there's no way we can tie that purchase to an individual and that individual back to marketing programs. And so when I talk about that measurable outcome, or excuse me, that measurable action, that is an important part to link a consumer behavior back to marketing program.
And how are newer channels like OTT and streaming services showing up in attribution?
Yeah, that's, we've seen an explosion in OTT, connected TV. Podcast has been popular for a while and is still gaining popularity. Consumer behavior is changing, right? There's more avenues to reach our customer, and there's more avenues for our customer to reach our brands and engage with our brands. OTT, connected TV, podcast. Folks are consuming video and consuming audio in different ways than they have in the past. Broadcast radio is absolutely fantastic for evangelizing the brand. A lot of folks will take action as a result of broadcast ad exposure or linear TV ad exposure, but the targeting that connected TV and podcast brings is a lot more of a one-for-one engagement, closer to that of digital. And so you're getting the value that audio consumption and video consumption bring to the table, but in a lot more of a targeted one-for-one messaging, as well as one-for-one digital action. And so where you used to have to blast a message out to a whole DMA saying, take this particular call to action, connected TV and podcast allow you to evangelize that same message and measure the response in a more deterministic rather than probabilistic model.
The knock on attribution is that it can often be tactical since it typically only focuses on one channel at a time. This is impractical for marketers since they're typically responsible for multiple channels, often, 4 to 10 of them. So what would you say to someone if that's what they had to say about attribution?
LeadsRx approaches attribution from a full funnel cross-channel perspective. If attribution is leveraged correctly, it should address the marketing mix from a full funnel cross-channel perspective. When done right, attribution will be leveraged to give more visibility cross-channel all the way through the funnel. Marketers are never at a shortage of data, right? The ad serving platforms do a fantastic job at giving you all of the data that you need for that particular channel in a siloed, sort of fragmented way. A lot of times that information is biased, right? The ad serving platform has a vested interest in ensuring that marketers maintain spend and potentially increase spend on those channels. The proper use of multi-touch attribution will bring an impartial, unbiased view into the entire marketing mix, the entire way through the funnel. So whether it's top, middle, or bottom of the funnel tactics, multi-touch attribution will bring visibility into all of those marketing touch points in a path to conversion. If this is done correctly, the marketer has the ability to truly understand what's working well and what's not working well within their marketing mix, where to put more dollars, where to focus more attention, fail fast and pivot quickly. If you have dipped your toes in the water into a marketing program that didn't pan out too well, right? So when that holistic view is employed, the right attribution tool will do a lot of that work for you.
So what are some trends in attribution that we can expect in 2025 and beyond?
Yeah, I think consumer privacy has been front and center for a while and will continue to be. I think it's a sort of a cat and mouse game between ad tech and martech and some of the powers that want to take certain actions to protect consumer privacy. And so that's a battle that's going to continue to rage. There's third-party tracking capabilities that have started to become less and less effective, less and less available to marketers. There's been discussion of third-party cookies coming and going. Google's changed course on that for a long time. But that consumer privacy discussion will continue to rage because there's a challenge in tying marketing tactics directly to consumers in the absence of some of those tracking capabilities. Now, some attribution solutions and measurement partners have been on the forefront of the approach to that for quite some time because the cookie deprecation conversation and a lot of the consumer privacy regulation conversations have been happening for a while. So what that is leading us to and will continue to lead us to is more of a cookieless approach to tracking consumer behavior, cross-device, cross-browser, and so on. That will continue to gain steam, and AI will start to play more and more of a role in helping us unify customer journeys and establish anonymous persona behavior online. There has been a push, and this is what I've touched on a few times now, in optimizing for revenue attribution, bottom of the funnel business outcome attribution. So instead of a lot of the proxy metrics, looking at click-through rates, looking at conversion rates to a top of the funnel conversion point, a demo request, a trial, let's follow that customer journey all the way through and attribute to revenue, right? Let's attribute to the most impactful business outcomes that everybody cares about, not just the marketers. And that revenue attribution puzzle is going to become more complex and already has become quite complex with the introduction of new channels like I had talked about, OTT, podcast, connected TV, streaming audio. But the unification of those channels into a centralized view of the customer journey will only become more and more and more important and will be adopted at a wider scale moving through the year. It's hard to say the true effect that AI is going to have in 2025 and beyond, and I think most folks can agree on that. But AI is going to definitely help with the unification of customer journeys and the identification of different types of consumers. But on the other side, I think AI is going to start to play more of a pivotal role in the outcome piece of attribution. So taking actionable insights from the attribution analysis and putting those back into work, into your marketing campaigns, whether that's helping you build out and deploy specific audiences, automated bidding based on optimization within attribution, learning what's truly working well and what's not, and changing up and down spend in near real time based on those results. So the optimization of the attribution modeling in real time and the automation and optimization of the output, I think is going to be one big piece.
That's great. Larry, that was super informative. Thank you so much for joining us today on Closing Time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Alex. Appreciate it.
And thanks to all of you for tuning in. Remember to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss an episode. We'll see you next week on Closing Time.